next up, Trump versus the judiciary. So this continue. It's interesting to watch this sort of unfurl and unfold. The institutionalist racing to defend the corrupt judicial branch of government, and the normie conservatives waking up to the deep flaws in the judicial branch of government, and what the next steps for Trump are. There was arguments today before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, where a liberal Democratic judge made some of the dumbest arguments I've heard, but that tells you where the partisan prejudice continues. The question is, once Roberts didn't intervene several weeks ago, it sent a green flag to all of these nut jobs to do the biggest power grab in history. And and they're quite like, the new excuse is you can only deport someone under the Alien Enemies Act if they get due process of law. And what that means is unclear. Imagine if you're on the battlefield. It's like, no, I would love to shoot, but I can't yet because we got to have a judge make a due process hearing first. National security is not a place for due process of that kind. If someone's a citizen or if someone's legally here, then that's when due process is triggered. When you're not legally here, you don't have due process rights. And it's kind of nuts to treat it that way. If you're illegally present in the United States, you put yourself at risk that you'll end up wherever the government decides to send you. Don't come here illegally. That's the answer to that. The idea that once you're here, that you get to always be here because now you're afforded the same rights as if you're a lawful resident alien or U.S. citizen diminishes the value of being a lawful resident alien or U.S. citizen. If you have the exact same rights, well, why not come right over the border, violate the law without consequence? The other issue, of course, is the venue shopping that was extreme because these individuals were being detained in Texas and Louisiana, but ACLU didn't want to sue there because they didn't know what judge they would get. So they sued in D.C., where none of them are located. Another example is just obvious abuse of judicial process. And so the question comes, what next for Trump? My view is he's going to give until the summer for the Supreme Court to step in and fix it. And if they don't, then frankly, it's ignore them. Just tell them to shove off. That's it. And then start impeaching and start defunding. We don't need to defund the police. We need to defund the judicial branch. That's what we need to do. Defund the judges. These are people that have not served. Go back and look. If we now, knowing what we know now, if we were in the Constitutional Convention, if we were in the Articles of Confederation, if we were in the Declaration of Independence, any of those meeting halls, and we were debating what role the judicial branch should have, wouldn't we drastically reduce the judicial branch's footprint? Right? Wouldn't we say the judicial branch should have a lot smaller role? Doesn't mean, I think we may have a much more robust role for jurors. I'm all in favor of that. Including jurors having the right to determine sentencing, jurors having the right to determine the law, not just judges. And judges shouldn't have a monopoly on that. But as a whole, how much has the judicial branch been a net plus after 200 plus years? Again, Indian removal, thanks to judges. The Civil War, thanks to judges. Segregation in the South and loss of civil rights and liberties in the South, thanks to judges. The eugenics, thanks to judges. Wartime loss of liberty, thanks to judges. What have they done? Intervening and deciding what our culture is going to be, overriding the elected interest of the people, thanks to judges. Fixing our elections, never done. Never happens. Why? Thanks to judges. Where's the judicial branch delivered for us? The Federalists were wrong. The Anti-Federalists were right. The judicial branch of government is the instinct to make it the least powerful was the right instinct, but they didn't go far enough. As balance of powers go, the judicial branch hasn't served anybody well. Just hasn't. Some people, why do I keep knocking on the door? Because that's often the only place you can go or the place you have to go in America. That's why. But that doesn't mean if I was structuring the whole system today, I would have any role for the judicial branch. Frankly, I wouldn't. I would have a role for juries, but I wouldn't have a role for judges. The judicial branch has failed America. And where in the world has the judicial branch been a net plus? Not really. So consequently, what conservatives should start to do is start to rethink the role of the judicial branch in general. Just like they have, it took them some time, but they came around to realize that they needed to rethink the entire bureaucratic state, the entire administrative state. They need to extend that to the judicial branch. And just take away their powers writ large. Defund them, defund the judges, disempower the judicial branch. Because it's failed. It's an experiment that's failed. We tried, it didn't work. In fact, you really can't point to any place in the world where it has worked. The judicial branch is a failed branch of government. And there has to be serious contemplation and thought to radically reducing their role in our society. Because again, some of the worst things that have ever happened in American society are thanks to the judicial branch. Slavery might have even been abolished had the judicial branch not rushed in to save it. The Indian removal, thanks to the judicial branch. Civil War, thanks to the judicial branch. Segregation, thanks to the judicial branch. Disfranchisement, thanks to the judicial branch. Discrimination, thanks to the judicial branch. Eugenics, thanks to the judicial branch. Loss of rights in times of war or emergency, thanks to the judicial branch. Overriding people's cultural, local decision-making roles, whether it's education, abortion, gay rights, marriage, etc., thanks to the judicial branch. The judicial branch has failed America. It is a failed experiment. It is time to move on past it and beyond it. Radically shrink judges' jurisdiction. Radically reduce judges' budgets. Dramatically increase the number of judges that get impeached, even if you don't succeed in removing them. And last but not least, drastically shift power from judges to juries. As to sentencing in criminal cases, as to the law in any and every case. That's my view. We need to start thinking much bigger. Not just dealing with this rogue judge or this rogue aspect of the judicial branch, but the judicial branch writ large needs to be disempowered. Because they've failed the American people. They have failed the experiment. I mean, isn't 200 years plus years enough time to know whether it worked or not? Didn't. The presidency has mostly worked as an institution. Congress has mostly, emphasize mostly, worked as an institution. I think there's lots of reforms there too, but they haven't failed us as badly as the judicial branch has failed us. So that's why I think it's time to reconsider, and Trump just provides and presents an opportunity to do so. But at a minimum, take away some of these nationwide injunction powers, take away these rogue jurisdictions like D.C. and the Southern District of New York, defund them as much as you possibly and practicably can. Impeach the rogue judges, even if you can't get them removed, to educate them on their risk, subject them to meaningful congressional hearings, and where necessary, DOJ involvement. I think that's what has to happen, or the American experiment will fall apart thanks to this rogue judicial branch poisoning that American constitutional experiment.